Hi, music lover, and welcome to my interview series designed to help musicians navigate life in the music industry and overcome challenges so they can stay in the game long term. I'm interviewing successful artists and ask them to share their tips, so hopefully you can get inspired and learn a few things in the process. My name is Ariane. Hi, I'm from Olympia Coaching, where I help artists and music professionals reach the next stage of their careers with more balance, clarity, and confidence. And today I've got the pleasure to speak with Marlon Hoffstadt. Hi, Marlon.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here. Marlon, so you started producing electronic music at the tender age of 17. You had a big hit a couple of years later, and you've had lots of releases since then on labels like Off Recordings, Ransom Notes, Retrograde, and now your new label called Midnight Themes. And you've performed all over the world, and you also curate a series of events called Savor the Moment that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And the first thing I wanted to touch upon is balance, because I believe that being balanced is crucial in order to stay in the game in a way that's sustainable without your personal life or your well-being suffering. So I would love to know, what are your tips on how to stay balanced in the music industry?
Yeah, where to start?
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is that staying balanced is kind of like a process. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most important things for me, because sometimes I'm doing really well with I'm working a lot and I'm having like so much fun with the work that I do, but sometimes it's really hard, and I think it really matters on the state of mind that you're in. And the most important thing is to not go crazy about like when you feel a bit like better or when you feel a bit sick. It's just natural, and I think most of the sickness and illness comes from the mind anyway, and from the stress and from anxiety. So I think the best tip that someone gave me was to don't freak out if something is not going the way you want it to go, or if you feel not as powerful as you want to be, as you want to feel. And yeah, but in general, I think it's practice. So when I started, like I got into this kind of like balance quite late, like after 6 years of playing music, like just like 1 year ago. And I had like this panic attack at one point, just out of nowhere. And then I was quite worried because I was 23 by that time, and it's no age for a panic attack, and I don't want to have like a burnout or something crazy by that age. And then I started to get into meditation and get into yoga, and sometimes I'm doing it a lot, sometimes not too much. It's like, for example, at the moment it's a bit more difficult because I'm like really packed with work. But I'm still trying to do it every morning for maybe at least 5 minutes. And now I just started looking into Kundalini yoga, which is also like an interesting thing. I think it's just practice and learning and taking time out for a minute.
Great. So it's like keeping, mentally and physically healthy through exercise, like a bit of yoga, like you said, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, it's better than nothing, right? Meditation, and probably, what about like nutrition and things like that? Is it something that you pay attention to, especially on the road? Like when you tour, is there something you do in order to keep healthy?
You mean like food and drink wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had like some times where I just ate vegan, and sometimes where I had like ate more vegetarian. And these days I'm mostly eating vegan and vegetarian, like a mixture. Sometimes I eat a few eggs, but not too often, and a bit of cheese. But it's also, for me, it's not a must do. I think it's just everyone finds its own balance, and sometimes you're more into it and sometimes not. For example, I just bought like my girlfriend just bought a really nice cooking book for us, and now we're doing a lot of vegan dishes together, which is a nice thing. But sometimes I'm also into like a nasty burger or whatever. I think the only rule for me is to not be too strict with myself, and to more like look that you don't eat junk food only.
Yeah.
And also like drink a lot of water and don't go too much in the
Yeah.
other directions. But everyone has its own balance somehow, I think.
I agree. And life also can get out of balance when there's an excess of working or touring, like we've seen with the tragic story of Avicii. And I believe that this tends to be ruled by fear, you know, when artists feel like they need to play as much as possible and, you know, make as much as money as possible now in case it all stops tomorrow. And when it's excessive, this can have heavy consequences on your health and well-being. So I know that a few years ago, I think you used to play maybe 8 shows a month, and now you play a bit less, maybe like about 4 shows a month, you said. And you're advocating slowing down and not saying yes to everything. And I'd love to know what made you take this decision and what difference did this make in your life and career?
So when I was touring a lot, I was actually not noticing how bad it is for me, because then you're in this drive mode and you just keep on going and you're really into it. And this feel that you talked about, this feel of that you can't say no to a show, at some point makes you really sick, because it stresses you. You go out, you play, you tour, you fly, you are in hotels, you're always alone, and then you're in a club, and then you're alone and in a club, and it's always like extreme ways. And you also have these ways in other jobs. That's not the thing, but I'm sure now that if I have a request and I want to play it, but it's just too much for me, that I simply can ask my booking agent or the promoter if we can maybe find a date somewhere later. Because if someone's really interested in you, then you can also go and play there later. And if that's not cool for this person, then maybe you shouldn't work with them anyway.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the most difficult thing these days is that there's like this. Maybe it was always like that, but for me, I'm just experiencing it now, that there's this lack of care for each other. So like a big problem is that many musicians are surrounded by big teams like booking agents and management and label and publishing and whatever. And everyone has these expectations, and everyone sees you as like a can you say a market? No, like a brand.
Yeah.
You're more a brand than a human being, and that's what is the main problem. And also, I'm not judging anyone else around me except me. I'm just judging myself for that, because like when I look back at these years, I don't really like myself there. I was kind of like a dick somehow. I was not nice. I was a bit arrogant. I was like kind of like self-destroying as well. And it's not only the others you can blame, but of course they also take a big part in there. And I don't know, like in case I will ever be as successful as I was a few years ago, I will definitely not play more than these 4 shows, or maybe 3, just 3 weekends, 1 off, because I have so many more weekends to go. I'm still super young, and also if I would be 40, still, if you want to do it for like 10 more years or something, then still there are so many more weekends left. So, I don't know. I think also it's not about fast money. Fast money doesn't make you happy, but that's like, you know it anyway. I think that's it.
Yes, it's like looking at your career in the long term, realizing that, you know, there's going to be many more dates to be played at, and